Welcome to Financial Freedom Classroom. We accelerate your results. Thank you for joining us this evening. I want to introduce my husband, John Locke, who's unfortunately out this evening, but he is the owner of Lock in Your Success, LLC. We do stock options trading, coaching, and education, and he's a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. Myself, I've managed many successful businesses in education, automotive, real estate, computer, consulting, coaching, etc. Together, we are active real estate investors. We've done the whole gamut of real estate investing. We also provide loans and guidance to small businesses. And to briefly go over our disclaimer, the information provided in this presentation is for general information only. We are not licensed broker dealers, financial advisors, legal representatives, accountants. We do not provide tax advice. Each person's situation is individual and needs to seek professional guidance. But tonight, I am so excited to be talking about social media trend setting with the Voivods from Epiphanies, Inc. And we're going to talk about how to succeed and lead today with digital and mobile marketing. So here they are. And they are the leaders of the AHA tribe. And they lend their expertise to help people expand their thinking on what's possible and move forward with confidence, relevance, and style. Welcome.
Thank
you so much.
We're very delighted to be here this evening.
We are thrilled as well. So what I'm going to do, because we just probably want to jump right into it, but I have to say how we've enjoyed, Lani, how we've enjoyed so much from you working with our girls.
Oh, thanks. They have been amazing to watch grow and prosper. They're such lovely young women now, very creative, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun with them over the years.
Yes, and they just adore you. So I'm thrilled that you guys have agreed to come and talk with us tonight, because I know you guys are very busy and very successful in your doing branding and so forth. So I am thrilled. So
great. Well, we love talking social media, marketing, all of it. So bring it on. We're ready to share.
Yep. Awesome. So let me make you presenter so you can share your screen.
All right, ready to go?
Yeah,
take it away.
All right. So we're talking trend setting in social media, how to succeed and lead today with digital and mobile marketing. And we took care to think about trends in a more long-term fashion. So we kind of highlighted the fact that when you talk about trend setting, sometimes it leads to horrible things like parachute pants and leg warmers and giant cell phones. And we wanted to let you know that we're going to have fun with this and share some more photos from crazy times like that. But wanted to let you know that the trends that we're talking about are things that we've been watching for a while, and we feel very confident that these are things that are evolving and solid. These are things that you're going to be able to rely upon and not, suddenly find yourself a year from now thinking, why did I go down this route? This is not working anymore. This is stuff that has stood the test of time as we've watched over the last year or two. And we are very confident in it being successful for you and your business.
And the other thing about social media trends is that things that are popular one year, you build upon them for the next year. So while some of these platforms come and go, the functionality of them gets used in later iterations.
Exactly. So just to kind of frame the conversation here, we wanted to start off with a quote from a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who is a very successful social media-driven entrepreneur. And one of his favorite things that we've come across from the thousands of bon mots he's dropped is the idea that every single one of you, every single one of us, is a media company now. We've all gone past the place where we rely on traditional news media and mainstream media to help get the word out about our business. Now the power is in our hands, and we need to think as though we are our own media companies. We need to think in terms of being content publishers and getting the word out in very fun and very creative and very entertaining ways, not ways that necessarily trivialize the things that we do, but ways that are engaging and informative and keep people wanting to interact with you.
Yeah, the one thing when we come across, especially small business owners, they are often overwhelmed by their options, and they say they don't have time to handle a lot of this social media. And I think a lot of it has to do with mindset and choosing to feel the burden of, oh, I can't believe we have more things to do, rather than I can't believe I have all this power at my disposal. I can publish a press release, a video, a tweet, an image. I can do everything I need to do within minutes of my deciding to do it, and that is how I get my competitive advantage. And this was not the case. We used to have to wait for big media, papers, radio, TV. We have not had the options that we have now, and the sooner that we can embrace these as positives, the better we're going to do against our competition.
When you put it like that, I almost hate to show this cartoon, quite honestly, because this is sort of the negative spin on it. This is a very funny Dilbert cartoon that kind of nails it on the head, where Dogbert says, the only things that matter are social networks, games, and phones. You're not working on any of that, so I arranged for the dustbin of history to do curb pickup, which is sometimes how it can feel if you're trying to catch up with all these things, or be like ASOC the intern going, please, I Twitter, and it's too little too late. It's really not too little too late. There is tons of opportunity, and it is a matter of being focused, as Lani said, and realizing that you do have the power, and then it's just, okay, what are the steps to make that power something tangible and easy for you to use?
And you know what, Alan, we will see Gary again later in the presentation.
Yes.
But I do want to at least say that if anyone listening, if you have not heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, he is kind of the Nostradamus of cutting-edge marketing strategy, and now has over 600 employees right in New York City, and he's very hot on Snapchat right now. He's huge on YouTube. He has made it his mission to make sure that his strategic radical visibility is omnipresent, and it's making, he's now a New York Times bestseller with many social media books. He's sought after. He just sat down with Larry King for kind of an interview on what's hot right now, and how human beings, it's not about social media anymore. It's about how we talk and engage with each other, and how we get people's attention. We as companies, we as individuals, we as brand builders and owners.
Mm-hmm. When you say he's big on Snapchat and huge on YouTube, just to clarify, not just that he has big audiences there, that he's making a big splash there, but specifically that these are two of the platforms that he thinks are hugely important to your progress as a business owner going forward.
He's an exceptional person at leveraging time and content, and continuing to build his brand by, he'll call it hustle. You got to hustle.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for our presentation tonight, here's what you're about to discover: how the focus on social media goals has been evolving, what to do about fragmenting audiences, what is better than engagement. There is actually something better. And something that's probably very near and dear to a lot of hearts: how not to drive yourself crazy with all the social media options out there, and some other miscellaneous trends to keep an eye on as well. So just briefly about us, I know Sherry told you a bit about us, and I'll just tell you just a tiny bit more. We've been in business since 2004, specializing in social media mojo. Yeah, that's true. Training, content marketing, branding, and possibility. And we've also, we were the founders of New Hampshire's largest social media conference, the AHA Summit, that ran for 6 years from 2009 to 2014. We rested on the 7th year, and we are now in talks about what the 8th year might look like. So more to come potentially. So we'll see about that.
I will also say that we hail from Fortune 500 online marketing before social media was a phrase.
That's true.
So we were with online marketing in our blood, and learning how to use the internet and get word out, content publishing. And when social media, the phrase, first was born, we were like, this looks very interesting.
Yeah.
so for many years, maybe only till recently, for many years people thought we were crazy, because it's amazing how long it took some companies and some human beings to kind of believe that this that any of these social networks were here to stay.
Do you know Twitter just turned 10 years old this year? Yeah, just last month. Yeah, so
I still don't quite understand Twitter. So
so imagine what we heard like 10 years ago, and we're like, seriously, you should do that.
Yeah.
What is it?
No one quite understands most of the platforms, but which, if you can get 10% better at any or all of them, then you're dynamite.
Exactly. Exactly. So there used to be a time, and this was actually a slide that I had in presentations back in 2009 and 2008 about all the different social media options that were out there, and it was just as overwhelming then as it is now, though funnily enough, a lot of the platforms that you actually see on here no longer exist. Facebook is in there, Twitter is in there, LinkedIn is in there. Some of the ones, that are still around, they've definitely stood the test of time. So there's been a lot of weeding out of social media platforms, which is a very good thing. It means that the choices are actually a lot simpler than they used to be. But before, and this slide is intentionally blank, before we even talk about what the necessary social media platforms are, we'd rather you think about something a little bit different in terms of the way you approach social media. And one of them has to do with your goals. Now, a lot of talk has been made over the years about your reach, your visibility, your engagement, and stuff like that. But the way that social media is evolving now is that the talk is not so much about focusing on the goals of, the vanity metrics, as they sometimes call them, of social media, but it's actually more about the business goals that can be well defined. So rather than thinking about social media in terms of how can I make this post reach more people, it's time to start thinking more about how you can actually use content to further your goals on social media, whether it's driving additional revenue, increasing your customer base, getting more repeat business. Sometimes customers are just one-off, and that's one of the biggest challenges for businesses is to actually retain customers and get repeat sales, as opposed to constantly churning and having to get new customers in to be able to survive. There's so many different business goals that can be driven by social media, and if your focus is on those first, you're going to find that things are going to be more successful for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the content that you produce has to, draw a straight line from A to B to driving a goal, but it does mean that you do want to consider the content that you produce. There are going to be times when, and the percentage varies. Some people say 80% general content that's useful and engaging and great teaching content, and maybe 20% promotional. It depends on your audience, and it depends on what you've trained them to be used to. You can make it, 90%, give me money content. If that's what you've trained people to expect and you do it in a way that's compelling, then by all means go for it. Again, it's all about creating the expectation with your audience. But think of the content that you do produce for some of these things about, in terms of what you can do for actual business goals, and think about social media goals as a means to an end. So greater reach, for example, is fantastic as long as it means that people are actually then converting. They're coming to your website. They're signing up for newsletters. They're ordering products, that sort of thing. Greater engagement is fantastic, especially if it's getting you word of mouth and it's exposing you to a wider customer base, that sort of thing. All of the goals for social media for reach, engagement, more views, growing your likers and followers, it's only good if it's really helping you achieve a business goal, but it's also kind of a long game with social media. Anything that you're doing on there is brand building, essentially. It's going to develop a relationship with people over time. And so sometimes you're not necessarily going to see the result right away, but you do have to be cognizant that ultimately this is about getting a result.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes we have seen people make, specifically CEOs who maybe aren't as savvy in this space, is Alan called them vanity metrics. They get very excited if, say, Facebook page likers increase by 10 or 1,000 or 100,000. But so what has happened is maybe the company that they worked with knew how to get a bunch of bogus likers, but they're not the right people. When you go one step in and look at who they are, they're either fake accounts, or they add no value, or provide, no more customers or no more sales. And it's those vanity metrics. I mean, we all have been victim to that, I think, thinking that the numbers, it's not about the reach in numbers, it's the reach in value.
Right.
It's are they the right people? It's better to have a small, passionate audience that loves what you do and engages on a regular basis than this mile wide and inch deep audience.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a question. So
Oh, yeah.
the question Andrew asked, do you see any further weeding out of platforms?
Yes, I would say so, because, I mean, new platforms are popping up all the time. There was a new platform that was trying to be a Facebook competitor called Ello that for a while people were actually very hot about it as
For 1 week, I think.
I think it was a bit longer than that. I'm still
Flash in
getting
the pan.
I guess even a bigger example is Google+. Google+ seems to be dying a very slow death in its way, where Google is not really providing it with a heck of a lot of support, and they don't seem to necessarily have a clear direction about it anymore. It was going to be a competitor to Facebook, but slowly but surely they have let their product managers leave off of Google Plus teams, and they've taken elements of Google Plus and spun them off into their own products. And so it's still there, and for people who are active on it, it's great, but it's not like it's a huge growth thing anymore, and I think it's going to just die a very slow death, unfortunately.
And I just read today that WhatsApp has 1 billion users, and so they have, some of these networks, some of these apps, some of these tools that people are using, that's they're not even familiar with. Most of us aren't even familiar with or use on a regular basis, and yet 1/7 of the world is using.
Wow, that's insane. I didn't know they'd reached a billion, but and they're owned by Facebook actually. Facebook bought them for something ridiculous, like I think 19 billion or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the other thing, when you start to see where the marriages and where the family trees are in these social media houses, there's definitely some monopoly lookalikes happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Thanks for the question, Andrew.
Yes, thank you. All right, so Lani was talking about the people that you are connected with on social, and that's actually the next thing that we wanted to talk about is audience segmentation, actually like dividing up your audience into more narrow and more tightly focused groups. And there is a fancy way to do that, which is referred to as personas. And basically what that is you essentially create a fake person or a fake set of people, and you essentially write a character biography for these people. You flesh out all the traits, like what their roles are in their business, or if you're selling direct to consumer, what their role might be in a family, for example. The goals that they have, whether it's their goals in business or if it's family, like what their goals for their family, challenges they might have, companies or industries they work in, all of these things where you've essentially created a biography of your ideal client that you want to pursue. And having that knowledge of the particular person allows you, in theory at least, to be able to understand them better. And then when you start crafting your messages, crafting the content, crafting the products and services that you offer, because of the fact that you've spent time trying to imagine this ideal client and what their pain points are, what their needs and wants and desires are, you're better able to fulfill those wants and needs and desires and to eliminate those pain points because you've spent so much time thinking about where they are and how the things you're offering to them can solve their problems. That's one very intensive way to do it. There's a less fancy way that works as well, and that's picking ideal customers. So think about your own business or organization and think about maybe the 2 or 3 people that you absolutely love working with more than anything else. Like if you had a cloning machine and you could walk those 2 or 3 people into the cloning machine and make 20, 30, 10,000 of them and have them be your customers, then you would be absolutely over the moon excited about your business. That is a much easier and quicker way to get at the whole persona idea, the ideal customers thing. And these are 3 of our ideal customers that we think about. One of them is a founder of Women Inspiring Women, which is a huge networking organization here in New Hampshire. The gentleman in the middle is Mike Gagnon, who is a small business owner, part of a family-owned business with JG Real Estate. And the woman on the right, her name is Erica Murphy. She is the marketing and communications director for a slew of restaurants, the Common Man family of restaurants, as well as a couple of inns and a spa as well.
And you should probably say Leslie's name.
I didn't say Leslie's name. My apologies.
Is the founder
Oh,
and
no.
visionary of Women Inspiring Women.
My gosh, I'm so sorry. Leslie Surgeon would be her name. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
So,
funny because I know two of these people. So I was excited when I went through this. I was like, yes, I know them.
Yeah, so we look to engage with passionate people, leaders, people who are really excited about what they do, well connected, and unafraid to try new things.
Right. And so when we produce content, if we have these three in mind and saying, you know, is this something that would help Leslie? Is this something that would help Mike? Is this something that would help Erica? Like, that helps us focus what we deliver very well.
And it helps also. We have a group called the AHA Tribe, which is a private brainstorming group, and they are in there, and we actively field questions from them and from the other groups, so we know what they're thinking a lot and what does keep them up at night, and do our best to answer those questions.
That's excellent. That's a great service for sure.
Thank you. And then the third major trend that we wanted to talk with everybody about here is attention. So this goes beyond engagement. So this is the thing that is even better than engagement, because engagement, as it's described in every social media textbook, is basically whether somebody clicks a like button on your Facebook post, or they click the heart to like your tweet, or they actually type in a comment, which means they're responding to you. Like, these are the things that are tracked as engagement. But attention is actually something a little bit deeper and a little bit more committed. And the way that this is happening these days is, and it's funny, Sherry, we were talking about this just before we started the webinar, it's all about video, video, video. You're seeing, I'm sure nowadays, as you look in your news feed, you're seeing more video like you see on the left-hand side. When people are sharing video, it's showing up more in your news feed. You're seeing video more often in your tweet stream too, if you're on Twitter. And even on YouTube, video is evolving to the degree where, like, something like The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which is, I mean, it's on network television, but we all know how people are flocking away from network television. They're not watching things in real time. They're using TiVo or their DVRs to do things, or they're skipping it entirely. They've cut the cord and are just not bothering. So this is how The Tonight Show is making sure that they keep everybody's attention. They're actually taking individuals' shows and slicing them down into different clips and creating playlists. So they actually have a playlist for every single day that they have a show.
So this is a great example of every one of you as a media company.
Yep.
Because you'd think that they could rest on their laurels and just produce their singular show, but they understand that their job is to segment their content to reach people in a specific demographic. You know, maybe the people who enjoy Justin Bieber aren't the same people who are going to watch, who's another guest? That's
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
On screen here, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of giving specific audiences bite-sized chunks of what they actually want.
Isn't
So
that, I mean, that's fascinating to me. I mean, it's because if you think about it, you know, we were talking about this recently, if we should take some of the video that we do, some of the tapes, and cut them down. We're going to index them too, but obviously that's the way it's going, because people want, so I'm going to just guess, but people are looking for something faster and more directed to what they're interested in.
It's a real challenge. It's a challenge to get anybody to watch a video that's more than 2 minutes, let alone sit down and watch something for an hour. And most of us here, one thing I've seen that's happening is these 2-minute videos that are auto-scrolling into longer videos, so they'll catch you, and they'll just, so I always laugh at myself, like I will just assume, if I will watch 52-minute videos, but I won't watch one, big long one.
I'm with you.
Minutes.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Or watch like a 6-second Vine video, like in loops,
for an hour.
Right. So,
not the same one. That would be weird.
No, that would be weird. You're right. So, just to give you an idea of how how intensely social media is now doubling down on video, these are just a few stats that will possibly blow a mind or two here or there. I hope so. Facebook Live, this is Facebook's live streaming platform. They have tested it out with celebrities in 2015, and now they are going to have it roll out to everybody in 2016. So you can become a broadcaster straight from the Facebook app on your phone. Twitter is one of the big live streaming situations. In fact, I think that's why Facebook really kind of jumped on the whole Facebook Live situation, because their tweet live streaming things where you could actually broadcast a live stream video through your Twitter account, that went from nowhere as a thing to suddenly becoming the big thing of 2015. And there was a company called Meerkat that started it that did so well that Twitter freaked out basically, and they had bought a company called Periscope about a year or so prior, and when they saw how well Meerkat was doing, they said, oh gosh, we got to get Periscope up and running quickly. And so that's what they did, and now Periscope is probably the leading live streaming app. YouTube just rolled out a service called YouTube Red, which is a subscription service, so you can actually pay money now to YouTube. It's still, all the regular stuff that you're used to is free, but now there's another level where not only you can get exclusive content, some of their most popular channel creators are creating extra exclusive content just for the YouTube Red subscribers, but you can also sign up for it and not be served ads anymore, no advertising, which is kind of like what Hulu is doing, because now Hulu has two different levels where you can have one that shows you ads in between your programs versus paying for one that, a higher level one that doesn't do advertising anymore. And then Snapchat, which Lani mentioned earlier, and that Gary Vaynerchuk is really bullish about. I know a lot of folks think that Snapchat is just for the kids, and we heard that language about so many social media platforms over the years that that almost in itself is a cue to say, hey, it's time to pay attention to this one, because if the kids are deeply invested in it, then it's going to start working its way up the ladder into the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and then 40-year-olds.
Again, it's keeping in mind that it's not about the platform, it's about the way people communicate. And definitely the youngins are teaching us and our whole culture, new ways to communicate. Here, they don't have as much patience as they did before. Of the moment content is very hot. Where attention, the Snapchat leads in attention because you cannot ignore snaps. I mean, it is, you can't, unlike where YouTube, you could start playing a video and then walk away and make a sandwich or whatever.
And decide, maybe I'll come back and watch that and maybe I won't.
Snapchat knows that people who are consuming that content have their attention on it.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to it because you blink and it's gone, literally. You have to be directly engaged with it. And
so did you, so I don't think you said it out loud.
No, I didn't say it out loud. 7 billion video views per day as of January 2016. And just to give you an idea, Facebook is around 8 billion video views per day. So it is hot on Facebook's heels for that. And Instagram has just increased the video length. They used to only allow 15 seconds of video. Now they've actually upped it to 60. And personally, I had a moment where I was like, I don't know if I want to commit to any Instagram video that's more than 15 seconds.
I get a little sad.
Yeah, exactly. But
because you start getting used to the platforms and the constrictions that they have, you kind of are grateful. So when they start to morph into the other platforms, you're like, oh no. Right.
Well, Facebook is also the owner of Instagram too, so that's more of that family tree thing that you were talking about. So Lani also mentioned that Gary was going to show up in the presentation later, and this is where it is. So in talking about whether it's video or really any other kind of content, these are sort of the characteristics of the best attention-grabbing content out there. First of all, it's native, which basically means that it looks like it belongs on the platform that you're sharing it on. So, for example, with Instagram shots are often very much taken in the world. They are out in the real world, as opposed to, say, if you are a company that sells shoes, for just to pick one example, you wouldn't necessarily take an awesome pair of shoes and put them in a light box and shoot them very carefully and well lit in your studio, so that way it just appears as just the shoes on a white background like you would see it in a product catalog or on a website, on an e-commerce website. You want to see those shoes on somebody's feet in an awesome location. Like that is native. That's how native to Instagram would appear.
Instagram, catches your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So content that looks like it's native to the platform that it's on. Doesn't interrupt. In other words, there's all sorts of personal things being shared on social media channels, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And then you got all of us businesses chiming in saying, hey, we're businesses. We have stuff to say too. But it still has to be the same kind of conversation that people are having on the platform and not give people the jarring experience of, oh, an advertisement just showed up, even though it's not even necessarily an ad. That's a whole separate thing. Even just the organic content shouldn't come across like an ad. It should come across like something you would naturally see on the platform. It doesn't make demands very often, and again, that's setting the expectations with your audience. The demands being, come to our website, use this coupon, sign up for our newsletter, buy this product, those sorts of demands, basically, any sort of business-focused call to action. It's micro, meaning that you don't really want to do giant epic things on social media. I mean, again, set the expectations with people, but for the most part,
3-minute video is a giant epic thing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. For the most part, you're looking at, a minute. Like I almost like grimace in saying a minute. Like a minute is really pushing it at this point.
I mean, that's not to say. I mean, there are plenty of examples of longer, longer form that are working, but you got to know the general rules so you can break them.
Yep, exactly. And consistent and self-aware. Consistent being that you are in your platform of choice, you are regularly on there, and you're aware of what you're creating as a brand. So self-aware, in not necessarily from the sense of people outside looking at what you do and being able to say that they know exactly what's going on with you. More that you are conscious about the type of content that you're producing, that you are doing it with an awareness that you are trying to project a certain image of your brand, knowing, of course, in this world of social media that all of that is kind of out of our control. Like it's in the control of the customer now what your brand identity is. You can start the conversation and say, well, this is what our brand represents. This is what we want your experience with our company to be like and what you can expect from us. And customers will be able to take that and say, well, yeah, it is. That is right. That's consistent. That is the kind of experience I have. Or if it isn't, then they will, take that and run with it too, heaven forbid. But being aware for yourself of the image that you're trying to convey and being consistent with it throughout everything that you do is huge.
Wow.
Are we going too fast?
I'm just there's just, it's huge, it's the internet, you think it's like it's the universe, right? So it just feels so huge.
I've been watching a couple of those visualizations of the universe now, because now they just said that we're not even part of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. We're in some giant, the Virgo cluster is now in a giant super cluster of galaxies that's called Laniakia. Actually.
Oh, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And Lonnie was looking at me like, where is this going? And I'm like, it just happens that they were studying this in Hawaii and they gave this giant supercluster the name Laniakia, Laniakea.
Huh.
So, and I was watching that video on Facebook of the visualization of this supercluster of galaxies. And the video was 1 minute and 9 seconds. And I was like, all right, I'll assume that the 9 seconds is for more information, come to our website.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was worth it. Okay. It was worth it.
So it was native. Are you saying it was native to the platform? It didn't interrupt. It was engaging.
Yes. Yes. It hit on all cylinders.
So realistically, you're saying the snips should be less than a minute. I mean, typically to grab people.
I will say it does depend on the platform. So
okay, yep.
Facebook has a very short attention span, specifically, if and in your strategy. So there is a general rule of shorter videos better. However, in your case, you are keeping YouTube as your library of content, which is legitimate, and we have done the same thing. So an hour of content, it is fine if that's where you where your content is living. So it still gets attention with the search engines. It represents your business and shows that you're always growing and you're consistently adding content. But like you had just mentioned on your own, Sherry, that maybe one thing you could do is take some of your favorite videos and take, 30-second, 1-minute excerpts out of them and share those on Facebook.
Right.
So they're teasers. Basically, they're teasers of your longer content. But you have to let people, what Gary says is jab, 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 right hook. That's the analogy that the right hook is the sale. Jab, jab, jab is the, hey, I want your attention. Look at what I have things to share with you. It's give, 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 and then sucker punch them with a sale, really.
One way to put it, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But it is. Our language is more like be a professional flirt. And not in a icky way,
Right.
but flirt meaning, be fun and engaging and someone who's always offering, a fresh conversation, a fresh perspective, and then say, by the way, like, here are other ways you can work with us.
Right.
So the idea then of producing all this content can be overwhelming to some folks, and so we like to think of things in terms of the 80-20 rule and getting as much of the value as we possibly can out of the content with as little effort as possible. And there is a big trick that we have to that. And it is basically this, mastering saying the same thing 12 different ways. So back in the day, we had created what we used to call a social marketing content ecosystem. This is another thing that we had back in 2009, where the blog post was sort of the hub of our existence, and we had everything automated. So anytime we published a blog post, it would automatically go over to Facebook, and maybe we would write like a 2-line intro to what the blog content was and link and have people click back over. Same thing with Twitter, where it's just a brief introduction of it and then tweet it and then go back to the blog to read it and that sort of thing. It works more or less the same way, but there's so many other ways that you can do this now. If, for example, and Sherry, this seems like it could be right up your alley with what we were talking about with YouTube, for example, taking snippets of YouTube videos and sharing them directly to your Facebook page, whether that is sharing it as a link back to YouTube, or what is probably much more effective these days, actually uploading the video itself to Facebook, or even snippets to Facebook, and saying, for more of what you're watching here, go to our YouTube channel or subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of this stuff can be brought over and be content fodder for all of the different social media platforms that you operate on. Just by that one piece of content, it can populate multiple social media platforms. All you have to do is just be able to master the idea of writing a quick introduction to the content that you're sharing on a platform and doing it in a way that makes sense for the platform. So Facebook, much more cocktail party conversational. LinkedIn, much more, business mixer kind of situation. Twitter, yeah, Twitter is its own animal. Twitter is basically, you can still talk to people normally. You don't have to truncate everything and make it look like it's coming from a texting teenager or anything like that. You just have to be very quick and to the point on what you tweet and share, especially if you're linking out from Twitter, because that then cuts down on the number of characters you have to use.
The Twitter, ironically, it's the most disposable content publisher, but it's also the one with maybe the most potential to connect with real people one-on-one. If you tag someone specifically, there's more of a chance they're going to respond to your tweet than if you sent them an email or sent them a LinkedIn message.
Right.
So, the dichotomy of some of these, it's almost, it's enough to put you in a loony bin, really.
It certainly can. And if you're comparatively old school, like say you've got email newsletters is what you love and what has worked for you very well, this works the same way, taking little, pieces of the content that you publish in your newsletter and sharing those out bit by bit on your social media channels. And hey, you can drive people back to your email newsletter and say, hey, you want to make sure that you get all this awesome content that we publish in our newsletter. Make sure you subscribe for it, because you might not see it on social media, because of course algorithms are so arbitrary in that sense that you don't necessarily know. In fact, that's, another one of the reasons why this whole thing about repeating yourself is okay, because that reach on social media is really comparatively minimal. And so these are a couple of the frightening stats about what reach is really like these days. Facebook post reach is about 10%-ish, assuming that people actually see your post and don't just blow by it in your news feeds. When Facebook decides to put one of your posts from your business page into the news feed, it automatically says it's reached a particular person. But the person could be just scroll, and not even really pay attention to it. So you'll still have reach registered for it, like you've actually reached a person, but they may not have even paid attention to it. So it's really hard to say whether that 10% is actually even 10%. It could be a lot less.
By the way, we just shared this at a workshop, this little, and I think 10% is way higher than what I've seen 3 to 5%.
So this was a study that was done in February of 2016, and it was actually up from 5% in January.
Yeah, so 10 is on the high end of anything. I've seen it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is if you are listening to this and you want to start crying, we can take a moment and let you wipe your tears, because
I didn't mean to laugh at people crying, by the way.
No, it's frustrating because we had 30 entrepreneurs and small business owners saying, are you just telling me that, like, no wonder there's no engagement, no one's seeing my stuff. A couple of years ago, Facebook was much more successful in getting people's attention, getting people's engagement, but now Facebook is primarily a pay-to-play model. If you want the eyeballs, the attention, you have got to put the money in their advertising system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm trying to spin in is good news. Like, if you're wondering why your engagement's so low, that's just what the game is now. So it's not you, it's Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to wonder, how do you capture that 10%? What do you post? I mean, it's funny because I listen to podcasts and so forth, and so a lot of it, I heard not too long ago, you have to have some kind of graphic or video or something, because just having words doesn't work anymore.
So the brief thing on Facebook's newsfeed algorithm. So most people, when they show up at Facebook, they're looking at the newsfeed at facebook.com, or they're seeing the feed on their app. They're not actually coming to your page if they're seeing your content. So the way Facebook determines what shows up in that newsfeed, there are literally more than 1,000 different pieces of their algorithm. But the three main things that you can think about are, number one, recency. So all other things being equal, Facebook is more likely to show something newer in the newsfeed than something older. The second thing is the type of post, because Facebook wants to be engaging, because if you're just scrolling through a bunch of stuff and you're bored and you're not doing anything, then you'll leave Facebook, and then Facebook won't be able to sell, advertising to you, and so that's a bad thing. So they've had more than 10 years of history of people seeing billions of posts, and they know what's engaging, and you're right, it's photos and video, and we're even seeing shared video taking a spike. It used to be that if your page shared content from another page, that you were only doing that for karma points more than anything else, because you would get absolutely zero visibility out of your sharing. But that has changed, particularly with video, and only with video, where if some other page is creating video and you share it on your own page, you're going to get tremendous visibility for that share, and you never had before, and it's another part of why, or another sign of how Facebook is doubling down on video. So even then, it behooves you as a content producer with your own Facebook page to create more video that can then be shared, because as people realize, if I share video, now it works. People are seeing it and looking at it. So if you're one of the providers of video, you have an opportunity right now to be shared and be seen much more readily than you ever had before with posting video on Facebook.
And the tricks on video, so little ninja tricks, if there are people in your video that you can tag them, let them know they're in the video, because that's when you have a chance in heck to get organic reach, to get, people want to see themselves, if they're told in any kind of content that they're being talked about, they will be curious.
Oh yeah.
And if it makes them look good, they will share it.
Well, we'll certainly make sure we tag you guys. We post this.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I mean, because we're all curious.
Oh yeah.
We're all curious.
What are they saying about me? Yep.
That's right.
For Twitter, it's a little bit better on the reach side. 30% of your following, if you're tweeting 3 times a day for at least a week, that you can get up to. And LinkedIn, you can actually get better. You can reach up to 66% of your connections, but that is only if you post every single weekday in a month, and that's so about 20 posts a month, and you can reach 2/3 of your audience. But still, it's not your whole audience, but man, that's a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah, the competitiveness for content way, way low on LinkedIn. The attention is different because everyone, they're much more formal. And, so if you are willing to play the LinkedIn game, the stats are much more promising.
Quite lucrative. So on the automation side of things, the way things are now, there's great value to batching your content. If you are able to block a little bit of time for yourself to preload content for your social media platforms, then so much the better. Maybe that doesn't necessarily work. Maybe it's easier to just do 5 minutes at the beginning of the day to find a couple of links that are worth sharing, then do it that way too. But Facebook has direct scheduling of content, so you can actually schedule out in advance all of the posts that you want to post on Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/Twitter, you can have everything that your page posts actually automatically be posted to your Twitter account as well, which if you're not into Twitter and it's not your thing, we still recommend that at the very least you get a Twitter account and get one in your business's name. Protect your brand identity for that, and then just hook it up to your Facebook page so a baseline of content is being published on your Twitter account. So at least anybody who's looking for you on Twitter will see something there and know that there's a way for them to engage you on the platform that they want to engage you on if they decide to.
Yeah, at least exists. At least people are pretty forgiving. Those who like Twitter, if they see a brand or a human being, if their account is just republishing their Facebook posts, there's a level of forgiveness. It just doesn't. It's like, oh, at least it's still better than not being there.
Right. Exactly. 2 tools that we use that are free and that are very helpful are Hootsuite and Buffer, and they're just at hootsuite.com and Buffer. That's actually bufferapp.com. Hootsuite will allow you to schedule other platforms like Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, and we definitely do not recommend that you use Hootsuite to schedule Facebook because Facebook will actually ding you. They won't let you. They won't let your content be as readily seen in Facebook news feeds unless it's actually being posted through Facebook, because Facebook wants your eyeballs on Facebook so that way they can show you advertising. And so if you're posting stuff from Facebook outside of Facebook, that doesn't make them so happy. But Twitter doesn't mind at all because Twitter doesn't have an algorithm. It is just the straight reverse chronological stream of whoever you're following and whoever everybody else is following. And then there's another site that we use to get really geeky, and it's called Ifttt.com, which stands for If This Then That. And one of the things that we use it for is, it used to be the case that if you're posting a photo on Instagram, you could share it straight through to Twitter, and that's another one of those automation, awesomeness things, just at the little touch of a button on your phone, your Instagram photo goes straight over to Twitter. But Twitter started getting photos into their own, tweet streams, and they said, we're not going to play nice with Instagram anymore. So instead of letting your Instagram photo actually show up as a photo in the tweet stream, now it just shows up as a link to Instagram. So not very engaging that way. But the site Ifttt can create recipes where your Instagram photos actually show up as native photos in the tweet stream, which is really awesome because then your image is right there and it makes your tweet stream look so much more compelling than just a bunch of Instagram links.
Just to be clear, this is stuff that Alan sets up for me because I'm like, here, you handle this. But I love Instagram, and I can't believe how much more engagement, and how when I'm able to leverage my posts. Like just today, I posted a photo of my cat and dog that were both sleeping on the same doggy pillow, and it was very heartwarming. And immediately I did Instagram, and it automatically goes on Twitter. It goes out on Twitter. And I can't believe how many people liked and retweeted this because they were able to on Twitter. I mean that the image does win.
Yeah, and to your credit too, Lani, like I know you'll say, you need me to set up for the technical side, but often the conversation starts with you saying, I know this must be possible.
Well, I'll see it. I'll see someone do it. I'll bring it to Al, and I'm like, this is possible. Please figure it out.
You're challenging him. That's what it is. I give you a challenge.
Oh, well, yes, you should know that sentence goes deep when you are married to your business partner.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I do, and I do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Use it.
We make them better, don't we?
That's right.
And let's see. So kind of threw me a little bit there. All right. All right, so we have definitely evolved from this craziness to going down to something that looked like this in 2009 to simplifying platforms a lot more. And this is where we look at what platforms. I know we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right, so the big four that still, like, even after all this time are still the ones. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, absolutely still kings of the heap, have stood the test of time. Instagram has absolutely joined those other three to become a platform that is here to stay. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were one of the first ones that was actually truly successful on mobile. It was a mobile-only social media platform for the longest time before you could even access stuff for it on a regular website.
Which is why Facebook bought them for $1 billion and put their Instagram CEO right next to Zuckerberg in the Facebook offices. Facebook wanted to know how they mastered mobile. There is a different mindset. Facebook was first created on desktop, and so they had to shift how they thought of content sharing.
Exactly.
Also, of note on Instagram, if you're not familiar with it or don't really understand why it's worth anything, not only are hashtags very popular on Instagram, but the big win on Instagram was we saw it published last year, where engagement on Instagram was something like 158 times more.
Oh, right.
Was that, or was it percent? Was it 158%?
I think it was 121% greater engagement on Instagram than on Facebook, and something like 78% greater engagement on Instagram per follower than on Twitter. It was reported by Forrester Research. They had done a study of engagement on 7 different social media platforms, and Instagram absolutely won out as the king of engagement per follower.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then from the niche for Pinterest, of course, Pinterest is still a heavily female, heavily visual, heavily aspirational platform. If you're trying to reach younger audiences, Snapchat, 138% is the way to go.
I'll also say Snapchat if you want to just try to figure out where communication is going. I mean, it is the learning curve is a little tough. It's a little tough, but once you start playing and let yourself play, you will see that the world is different.
I do note that we are just coming up on 8:30. I have about, I think, 5 or so other slides here, and I just want to at least acknowledge that we're where we're at on time, and see if it is okay that we continue on with where we are.
Oh, please. I have oodles of questions too, but so I'm going to try to keep them all in. So.
All right. Twitch is probably a social network that a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's actually got more than 100 million folks involved in it. It is a gaming social network. There are social networks for video gamers that people who post videos of themselves playing video games, and millions of people queue up to watch video, just recordings of them doing playthroughs is the language for it, of actually just playing the video game. And then YouTube as a niche. And Lonnie looks at me askance when I put this in a niche thing. It's a niche because it's a video only platform. Like, it doesn't allow you to do other types of content like, say, Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the other things. And they've essentially created like their own TV station. A lot of folks who are successful on YouTube have essentially created their own network for all intents and purposes.
But I still think for Google search, I think it belongs on the, maybe we do the big 5 and the niche, whatever.
The niche 3? Okay. All right.
We disagree.
All right. It is as far as like the number of internet searches, Google is number 1 for processing internet searches. YouTube is number 2 for the amount of actual searches that are processed in a given month. YouTube is number 2, and Twitter is number 3.
Wow.
All right. So talking about disposable content, which we did mention a bit earlier, photos and short form video, those are the places that you want to go. Thinking of it as disposable or snack size content, it's easier for folks to take in. It's more affordable for you to produce. It doesn't have to be polished. There's a place for one or so, nice, highly produced video a year, if that maybe, but you can't be that precious especially about video. You have to be able to take the iPhone or the Android phone that's in your hand and just roll with it, and it's okay. People actually expect and are perfectly fine with you doing that.
We have seen some companies make some big mistakes by having, say, a budget of $5,000 or $10,000 for the year and deciding to put it all on one corporate video, which sits happily on their website and never gets any traction at all. When they could have used that, they could have used that same budget and all day long, like, had a video a day for a year, which would have been so much smarter.
Right.
Just a different way to look at things. And, if you have to get past the CEO and show them numbers of what the real world is in engagement, work your butt to do that if you're working with someone. If it's you, yes, smaller more often is better than one big one.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a term that was coined by a very smart guy called David Meerman Scott. He's the guy who wrote one of the seminal books on social media, The New Rules of Marketing and PR. And he came up with this term newsjacking, which is the idea of playing along with current events. Kind of have to be a little careful with this one depending on the type of current event. But just to give you an idea, for example, the new Star Wars movie just came out on video. So if I wanted to write an article about what the new Star Wars movie taught me about social media marketing, for example, it's something that could catch people's attention because people are talking about the fact that the new Star Wars movie was just released on home video. So it's a topic that's in the news. So it has people's attention to begin with. And if you're able to write something that is relevant to your own industry that your audience wants to hear, and you can hook it to something that's happening in pop culture or current events that will give you an opportunity to garner a little bit more attention. What Kim Kardashian taught me about taking selfies, for example. Like, I'm sure there's a lot I could learn, and sometimes even bad examples are good examples, because I certainly wouldn't be taking a lot of topless selfies, I don't think. But
well, you'd probably be a hit.
Very kind of you to say. Also, another trend that's very important that doesn't necessarily fit in with those broader ideas that we talked about earlier is how everything that you're thinking of needs to be thought of as being seen through a mobile device first, as opposed to thinking that people are going to be watching these on desktop or laptop computers. Just to give you an idea of the penetration of Facebook in our little state here of New Hampshire, 790,000 adults are on Facebook. That's out of a population of, it's actually 1.3 million in the state, but
of the whole population.
But yeah, we're not talking, but that includes all the children that are not age eligible for Facebook. Ultimately, it's like around 80 to 85% in New Hampshire is, behind the country comparatively. But then when you look at how many people in New Hampshire are accessing Facebook from a mobile device, From Apple devices, it's 390,000. Android devices, it's 310. So of that 790,000 adults on Facebook, 700,000 of them are accessing Facebook on mobile devices. So yeah, over 90%. That's how crazy it is. Worldwide, 93% of Facebook's active daily users are accessing Facebook from a mobile device. 52% of them are mobile only. They are not looking at Facebook on a desktop. So everything you do with Facebook has to be short, sweet, punchy, like, get in, get out, make the impression, get the attention, and, and send them on their way.
Yeah, so if you're someone who works on a desktop and that's where that's your main hub, your main console, you've got to train yourself to see how everything looks on your phone and make sure that it's consumable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So even though Facebook allows you to write something like 60,000 characters in a post, there's no way you're going to put that kind of long diatribe on your Facebook post. You're going to want to keep it around 40, 50, 60 characters, really short, 10, 15 words at most. And that way that, or at least if you're going to go longer, make sure that the main gist of the message you want to share is definitely captured within those first few words.
It's to get those words and to try to catch somebody in those words is tough.
Yeah, it can be, absolutely. And so, just ahead of, I think this is in a slide coming up, but yes, it is actually about 3 or 4 slides ahead. The idea of just playing, if you're a left brain person, experiment. If you're a right brain person, play. That's what it comes down to, because your audience doesn't necessarily know what's going to work for them until it works on them. They're not necessarily able to quantify it and say, well, I know if you put this kind of post on Facebook, then I'm definitely going to pay attention to it. It doesn't really work that way. Other Facebook things that we're seeing that really work, instead of creating photo albums, if you actually upload 4 or 5 photos for one status update, we're seeing a lot of attention being delivered to those. There's a new function where pages that do, if your business does events and you're putting those events on your Facebook page, there's actually a separate feed where people can subscribe to your events. That's another way for you to get visibility and attention on Facebook. And then we have seen successfully people using 1 to 2 word headlines that kind of frame the posts that they're putting on Facebook, like breaking news or, update for fans, or gotta read this, or any other combination you can come up with. It's another thing to experiment and play with. It could even be just let's see. I think you're doing 1031 exchanges next time, I believe.
Yeah.
And 1031 strategy : and then information about it with a particular post and go longer.
So keyword summary.
Yeah.
You said 1 to 2, but 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 words.
1 to 3. Yeah. I think I'll give you a third. Lani had mentioned that Facebook is becoming pay to play, and it is very true.
It
is. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, you're right. Yeah. If you look at Facebook's ad revenue and stock price almost go hand in hand, basically, if you look at them. But Facebook offers you tons of ways to advertise and to reach your audience directly, including down to the device. If you only want to reach iOS users, or if you only want to reach Android users, you can. You can create custom audiences in Facebook where if you have a newsletter list, for example, if you have an email list, you can upload that email list and it will match as many of them to Facebook profiles as it can, and you can advertise to your email list on Facebook. It can look at those email addresses and say, well, for all of these people that you've uploaded in an email address list, we know that there are a lot of other people on Facebook who have traits socioeconomically, demographically, that are very much like the people on your email list, and they can create something called a lookalike list, which is the nearest thing to cloning your ideal audience that you can get, and you can advertise directly to that lookalike audience on Facebook as well. And they have all sorts of other targeting options because basically it is the world's largest marketing database, Facebook is. And you can do remarketing or retargeting, which is essentially putting a little bit of code on your website. So if people come to your website from your advertisement, it will put that little code as a cookie on their browser. And so I'm sure you've had the experience of if you've gone on to Amazon.com, for example, and you looked at vacuum cleaners, and then, a day or two later, you're surfing on some random website, and over in the sidebar, there's an ad for a vacuum cleaner from Amazon, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's what remarketing or retargeting is. It knows that you went and looked at it, and so it can show you the advertisement again. Because not everybody converts when they come to your website, so it's an opportunity to advertise to them again and again. And if you're advertising to somebody who's already shown a little bit of interest by coming to the website, then so much the better for trying to get in front of them a little bit more. And create that opportunity.
I was looking for
with repeated things.
Spring dresses the other night, and I've had them following me all week.
Isn't that crazy? It's so creepy, though. It's how do they know these things? How do they know? But
it can be. It's all through the magic of cookies. It was cat treats for me.
Oh, cat treats.
And what I mentioned about Facebook ads, and also about organic content too. The audience knows what works, and they won't know it works until it does. So experiment or play, and be okay with the fact that you can fail at these things and learn from it. It's all about testing ultimately. From the advertising side, split testing images. So try the same advertisement but with two different images and see which one works best. And then like when it works, take that winner and publish it and put all your money behind it. Like do small tests and find out what works and then put the money behind the big tests. Just in anything like that you're posting for video, images, and thumbnails, be very conscious of what you're sharing as they show up. There was one video that we just saw. A client of ours had posted a video, and the caption that went with it was, "These folks are so excited to be here." And the video thumbnail had two people that were caught in the middle of talking on video, and one of them had his mouth open and was kind of like looked a little bit awkward, like, that wrong freeze frame of things that happen sometimes. And the other person was standing there listening to the other, person, that was on video with them talk, and the expression on her face was like so incredibly bored. It was like, it was awful. And so just being aware of the images and thumbnails that you put out is a good thing as well. And that is everything we have for you here. So you say you have questions lining up, so by all means, let's have them.
Well, wow, it's massive. So let's just say it's overwhelming, right? Because there's so much that you could do. So if there's one thing, and it probably is dependent upon the industry, but if there's one place social media platform that you would use, which would it be?
Well, if you have some money earmarked for advertising, you are going to learn a ton through Power Editor of Facebook. So if you can, that's where you can literally locate your clients and your future customers and clients, if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and see what's there. And like Alan said, make some mistakes, but it's a low-risk game that can reap enormous rewards if you're willing, if you've got the time, patience, and a little bit of money. When I say a little bit of money, I'm saying, as Alan just said, you can split test images and see which one works better and spend maybe $10, $20 to see what's working. And then if you have more money, you can put it behind the one that works and for the results you're looking for.
Yeah, especially if you're a business that is doing any kind of print advertising, my gosh, like you get no opportunity to split test, and it is so tremendously expensive. Take a slice of that and experiment with Facebook advertising and see how incredible and how powerful and how amazingly targeted it can be.
Then take your chance if you are willing to play with the advertising on Facebook. There's short video versus photo advertising versus the photo carousels. We just had a very successful run with photo carousel advertising, which means we uploaded 5 photos for an event, and for 3 days put some money behind it. I think it just a couple $100 for 3 days because it was, and the reach was like 26,000
Oh, wow.
targeted people, and we got noticeable sales spike. So for the price of one ticket for this event that we're having, we got maybe 20 new eyeballs, people we don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
I think 20 is actually the number that signed up. So which was basically for the amount of money that we spent on the ad, it was a 20-to-1 return.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
It can happen that way. One of the things that I've seen, I'm part of some different Facebook groups, and I've actually seen people post two pictures and say which one would be more appealing to you. So they're kind of doing it prior to actually publishing whatever they're doing to try to see what the interest would be on different
Oh,
pictures.
yeah. And it's great to have groups like that you can collaborate in and have that sort of that open and giving relationship for it too.
So
Right.
if I were, so I would not spend money unless you have too much to deal with on LinkedIn, because they are consistently, I think they're wackadoodle over there, quite
They're
frankly.
very expensive for the did you just hear?
I heard wackadoodle. I know what that means.
Well, they think that New Hampshire's, it says that New Hampshire has a population of 2.6 million or something LinkedIn users, which of course is not possible because our
Right.
whole state is barely over 1 million.
Right.
So no one apologizes. It's a weird little crew over there. But
Did you know that wackadoodle was just became part of the Oxford English Dictionary?
no, I'm so hip.
That's literally one of the latest entries of
Wow.
it. I was wondering
there
if
you
that's
go.
why you said it.
As
Anyway,
usual, cutting edge.
yes, that's you.
But what I was going to say about LinkedIn, so don't spend money there, but get consistent there with your brand, with your presence, because people on LinkedIn, less competition for whatever you're posting. They are there for professional reasons, and they are richer. They have more money.
Yep.
Truly, and you're going to connect with more influencers, more, what do you call them? Oh gosh, no. Movers and shakers, but I had a term in mind.
I thought you had it with influencers, actually.
Yeah, okay. Influencers,
Mhm.
people who are going to help you with your business, collaborators, decision makers. I would get your content consistent on there and play with Facebook advertising to find out which messages work best for your audiences, and make sure everything's linked. Like Alan said, make sure that your Facebook posts that you do have a Twitter account, and it goes, strategically you want to be everywhere your people are with the least time and money invested for yourself as possible.
Word to your mother.
Can I ask another quick question about LinkedIn? What kind?
Yeah.
Now I know in Facebook, obviously you're doing pictures, and then you're trying to hook. Is the content that you would use in Facebook the same as LinkedIn? LinkedIn seems like it would need to be different. Or am I wrong?
Yes, and LinkedIn, incidentally, will not tell you what drives their algorithm for updates that you see in their feed. Like I've asked, even for the high level, and they absolutely refuse to tell anyone. So it's anybody's guess, except to say that photos and videos are more likely to be seen, just because, again, it's more engaging no matter what platform.
But you cannot upload videos to
That's
LinkedIn.
right.
You can share links. So this is where it gets tricky. So as we were saying before, Sherry, before we started, that yes, it's important to upload videos to Facebook. However, you can't then share that. If that's your main place you hold your videos, you can't share it on LinkedIn. So having your videos on YouTube, having a YouTube presence, allows you to then share your videos on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to do it this way, unless Alan has another recipe from Ifttt.
LinkedIn doesn't play well with Ifttt, actually. So.
LinkedIn does not play with the other kids in the sandbox.
However, one platform that we haven't talked about that we haven't touched on for a while really is Slideshare, which is basically like YouTube but for PowerPoint presentations. And it's owned by LinkedIn. So if you do a lot of PowerPoint presentations, then it might behoove you to consider Slideshare as an option as well. When we were publishing content on Slideshare on a regular basis, we were actually seeing tremendous amounts of views on the slide programs that we were putting up.
So much so that we never understood why we didn't drop everything and just to do things on SlideShare. We never did it, but it was outstanding, the views we got on SlideShare.
And so it might be a secret LinkedIn weapon potentially to check out.
Huh. And so is SlideShare, so you simply just upload, say, a PowerPoint with no audio and no...
I think we would have to just make sure it's still breathing.
It is still breathing, and there was a no. It is still breathing, and there was a we did video on there, or we did audio attached to it at some point on there too, because we did that for our Twitter flight plan way back when.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would need to check in and see what is going on with SlideShare these days. But
seeing what the modern day SlideShare is and looks like. But I do think it still works well with LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, they own it.
Yeah. I mean, what is just making sure that we cover her question.
The question was what platform? Like if you had to pick a platform.
With LinkedIn.
Oh yes, LinkedIn. So what to put on there, and can it be?
Oh yeah. If you have an images really make a difference about catching. If you can upload an image with your content, that's great.
Can you do the inspirational quotes like you see in and around?
I just heard from people who were adamant that you cannot do that. that please don't. But I kind of think that if you are willing to play the game differently than what everyone else does, you are going to maybe be divisive, but you'll catch different types of eyeballs.
And it also probably depends on the network you cultivated too. No, you don't. No. But it depends on the network you cultivated and on your own personality too.
Yeah.
I mean, if that is your personality, then people should already know what they're getting into when they've connected with you to begin with.
That's the thing. A lot of people are trying to make the rule. They say that they can't publish certain types of content because, quote unquote, that's not what other people are doing on LinkedIn. And I say, that's not what other people are doing on LinkedIn. Publish the fresh content. Give people on LinkedIn something different to look at than stock images. Give them something. If the content is good, so if you have a great photo that you took that accompanies a blog post, use that. Don't use the polished stock images because it just blends in. It's like looking at wallpaper. It's the same, it doesn't catch anyone's attention. It's not,
We've all seen people standing over a computer and pointing at the screen. We've all seen somebody like smiling at a conference table. We've all seen people standing next to each other like looking at an architectural drawing.
Yes. So it's a personal preference, but like the stuff that Alan and I post, it may not be for everyone, but it has more times than not gotten us the right kind of clients over and over again when we have been willing to be much less than perfect in terms of our content.
You guys are great. You guys break up.
While everyone's telling us you can't do it this way, we're like, yes, you can.
That's because you guys are genuine. So, and I love that about you guys for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But so what one of the, I know, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you late. So this will be the last one, I promise.
That's okay.
Anything about, now what's interesting is we started doing podcasting, so I haven't heard a whole lot about we'll take a video and we'll do an audio for it. And I haven't seen a lot of sharing of that. What do you guys think about taking a video, turning it into a podcast, or just doing podcasting in general? Because I know there's a lot of people that listen to podcasts, but...
Well, first of all, Sherry, did you know that the man here, Alan, has the only daily Star Wars podcast on the planet, and he is at episode number
644 goes live tomorrow.
644.
Well, I'm asking the right people then.
Yes,
Tell me more.
over 100 countries. So yes, he is kind of a savant on podcasting.
That's fantastic.
So your question is, do people take their content and turn them into podcasts? So I will say specifically Gary V, that's exactly what he does. He has a show, Vaynerchuk, he's at Gary VEE on Twitter, and I think maybe that's his handle on Instagram too, but he does a daily video show that becomes his podcast.
Right, he just takes the audio out of it and then uploads that to his, usually it's Libsyn, which is Liberated Syndication, Libsyn, LIBSYN.com, which is probably the preeminent host for hosting company for podcasts.
So if you personally have the bandwidth to do this, this strategy, or you outsource it, which can be done very inexpensively.
Yep.
If you are creating great content and want to turn it into podcast content, absolutely. And the way you can do that is my brain just got tangled.
Like taking the video and doing audio from it?
Yes. So you have done that, Alan, right? You've stripped.
Yes. I have.
Audio is. Let me just finish that sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
Audio.
Yeah, stripped audio.
You haven't just stripped.
No, I haven't. No, remember the Kim Kardashian selfie thing? No, I haven't. Despite your suggestion that it would be good. Anyway, so yes, I've taken video and just pulled the audio out of it and used the audio for podcast material. Absolutely. It's if you're just doing it from YouTube, you can just type in a Google search, type YouTube to MP3, and you'll find websites where all you have to do is just paste the link to the YouTube video, and it will give you a download of an MP3 of the audio from that YouTube video. It's so easy, it's ridiculous. And I mean, that's one way that you can do it if you already have a ton of YouTube video that's uploaded on your own channel and you just want to start pulling it out that way. And even then, for outsourcing, they don't have to have, you don't have to give a person access to your channel. You just have to tell them, here's where my channel is, go through all these videos and put them through a YouTube to MP3 converter and get me MP3s for all my videos. And then you can, upload a bunch of those and schedule them out as podcasts. It could be that simple. And then go to a website like, say, Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and find somebody who can produce a opening and closing thing for your podcast, like a little voiceover and something that says, welcome to the Financial Freedom Classroom, where you're going to learn A, B, C, and D. Now here's your hosts, John and Sherry Locke, right? And then and it can be that simple. And then in a free program like Audacity, it's almost like using Microsoft Word, where you cut, copy, and paste and move the pieces of audio around to combine them together.
Right. Oh gosh. So so this will be my final question.
That's all right.
So when you share, for instance, like you want to share a podcast, what I've done is I just throw the link in there and share the podcast. But for Facebook, now you can watch videos, but I was looking, can you upload audios so that they can just listen in Facebook, or no?
No, you cannot do that. But what you can do with, if you use a podcast host, which is just basically saying it's a place where you can upload all the MP3 files, and it will create a feed of them that gets submitted out to iTunes, so people can subscribe to your podcast through iTunes, or to any of a number of different apps that work for Android, like Stitcher or Overcast, I think is another one. And by the same token, it can also share out automatically to Facebook as well. So you can click play right in the Facebook feed, and it will show a graphic of your podcast logo basically while it plays the audio. But you can't really upload MP3. You're actually pasting the link to where it is in the podcast feed. It sounds a little more complicated than it is, but ultimately it becomes one of those things where I just told it I wanted it to post to Facebook, and I told it what my Facebook page was, and it said, click here to connect your podcast feed to your Facebook page. And I clicked the button and it said, great, it's now authorized. And that was it. And now it publishes and I barely had to do anything to make it happen.
Wow. That is awesome. Well, congratulations on your show too. That is a commitment. Over 600 episodes. That is commitment. So congratulations for that. That is a lot.
Insane.
I'm sorry.
Slightly insane, she said. And yes, she's right.
Well, this has been so fabulous. Any other parting words that you want to, because I've kept you so long, and I'm going to just bring us back to, I'm going to bring us back and throw up my screen so everybody can see your contact information. To contact them, everybody should check out the AHA Tribe on epiphanies.inc.com to have all this great content that they're sharing. Any parting words, you guys?
We first want to thank you for inviting us to talk with you this evening. We really appreciate it, and we really root for the underdogs and for people who have some skin in the game and are willing to, to work with passion, with vision, with a spark, a hope, and a creativity that they can, what they have to offer is something valuable and fresh and fun. So, keep up the good work wherever you are, and like we said at the beginning, even if you could get 10% better at any or all of these platforms, you are doing better than most people who are staying underneath the overwhelm umbrella.
And don't be afraid to fail at this. Don't be afraid to experiment or play and realize that this is all a learning process and that your audience is learning about what works for them just as much as you're learning what works for your customers. Don't give up. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. If you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, take a step back, breathe, and focus on one step forward at a time. It is just one foot in front of the other. Remember that song from the old Rankin and Bass Christmas special? Put one foot in front of the other.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Rankin.
I love that. I love that. Isn't that a Romeo
Miller? Yeah, he's the writer of it. Rankin and Bass were the producers,
okay,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Fred Astaire actually sang that one.
Yeah.
That is so true. Oh my God.
Yeah, have some fun, and you got to keep learning. That's if you can just take a breath and put in perspective and look at these as the tools are not the end. The goal is to inspire your audience, engage with them, let them know that you exist and let them know that you are there for them to help, to support, to collaborate, whatever you want to do. So don't get overwhelmed or stopped by the tools as themselves, because you are playing a bigger game.
Right. That is great advice. No doubt about it. So I just want to thank you again. I would love to have you come back. Certainly, things change so rapidly, and we lose platforms and we gain platforms, and if you might consider maybe coming back to talk to us maybe next year and see what's changed, because I'm sure it will.
We'd be honored. Thank you very much.
Tell John we missed him, and hope he's doing well.
Well, he'll be here next time, I promise.
Okay.
It's
All
rare
right.
that he gets out of the house, believe me. Thanks so much, you guys.
All right. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm just going to wrap up and say you can join us and you can check out our blog regularly at financialfreedom.com. And you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com financialfreedom.classroom. And please send your questions anytime to Sherry at financialfreedomclassroom.com, and I will answer them. And if you would please share any of this information with your family and friends, we would greatly appreciate it because it can help someone. And next time, we are going to talk tax deferral for real estate investors, 1031 exchanges, with Scott Saunders from Asset Preservation Incorporated. So that is going to be a great talk. He's going to talk, we're going to have him, and then we're also going to have someone else who's going to talk a little bit about REITs also, which will be very, very interesting. So I want to thank everybody for spending your valuable time with us, and have a great evening.